What's going on, fam? Welcome to the Get the Bag podcast, episode 28.
Wow.
We're approaching 30. I'm your
Yeah.
host, Gladia Castro. Got my co-host, Tim Park.
Hey,
What's
fam.
going on?
What's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah, we on a little bit early, catching a flight later. So appreciate flexibility. As we always say, it's a live show. So, hit the like button, set the reminders, follow us on IG. But most importantly, post your questions in the chat because today is going to be a fire episode because this
Mm-hmm.
is probably maybe uh the second most often like asked question is like, what tools do you guys use? Or I'm just getting started, so what tools should I focus on getting first to get my first deal? So we're going to break that down and talk about our experience when we first got started and
Mm-hmm.
what kind of tools helped us kind of go along the way. Now it does vary based on obviously your budget and exactly you're focusing on. But
Yep.
I think this hopefully our goal by the end of this episode is for you guys to at least come out like confident, like okay, I should at least start with these tools so you guys can get started.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what maybe we can dig into like our past experience.
Sure.
Starting with you, Tim. Like, what I know we're part of Chris Jefferson's wholesaling program, so
Mm-hmm.
he was able to give us a blueprint. But when you got started, what are some tools that you focused on, and maybe talking about your budget because I do feel like that does contribute to your the tools and services you can use.
Mm-hmm. I think I had a little bit of a budget when I first started, but I was able to spend some money on the tools that Chris kind of recommended in his course.
Hmm.
And so one of those was a dialer, right?
Right.
And then a polling list, and then also, paying for that list, and
Hmm.
then getting it skip traced and stuff. So I took some of those things like really serious and trying to lock up my first deal.
Right.
So I think one of the first things I did get was call tools for the
Yep.
dialer, right? And then the second thing I did was I pulled a list from like GeoPoint, right? And
Right.
then I skip traced it. Where did I skip trace it?
Well, it was what
I
was it?
think
Skip
REI skip or
REI skip.
something.
REI
Yeah,
skip.
REI skip. And then I didn't spend much on my list because I only had like 600.
Mm.
Um,
And what
and
areas did you focus on?
I just focused on LA County. So and my list was um, absentee 60 plus.
That's the GOAT list.
Yep, that's the GOAT list, right? That was the I was like trying to follow the blueprint, like step by step type of thing,
Yeah.
and then I didn't, I think there was a free trial on some of these platforms,
Yeah.
so I didn't text right away. I was just trying to get on the phones and start making phone calls and get used to the script as well, and get used to just talking to sellers, right? And
Right.
so um, the plus thing about like call tools or batch dialer is you get to make more calls and reach more sellers at a faster pace, right?
Right.
Than you dialing on your cell phone. So that's the one of the main differences. I'm not saying that you can't get a deal just self dialing on your cell phone or a
Hmm.
phone, but it's just a numbers game. So, the more people that you reach, the more people that you talk to, the more chance that you'll have to get a deal or, follow up on those people that have deals, right? Or that's
Right.
going to turn into a deal.
Yeah. That's
So those
awesome.
are, yeah, so those are some of the, initial tools that I used getting started. And then, I started, spending a little bit more money on other tools and stuff. But
Right.
what about you? What are some of the tools that you used to get started when you first?
Probably the same. The great thing about Chris, I don't know if he does this anymore, but he kind of gave you a marketing plan based off your budget.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
the premise of all of this, of whatever services, is what can you afford? So
Right.
there's different ranges. So I think I had noted here is like range of 100 to maybe $300, or even five, pushing it to $500. Like, what is
Mm-hmm.
your budget? Once you can establish, like, especially if you have a 9 to 5, if you don't have a 9 to 5, like, obviously try to get some funding or some ways, credit cards, whatever it is. Figure out what your budget is. And I think mine was somewhere between 300 and 500, because I did
Mm-hmm.
have some extra income that I wanted to use to invest in myself and in my business. So
Right.
Chris provided us like with a marketing plan. Okay, based off you fall in this range, these are the tools that you should get. And so that was really
Mm-hmm.
helpful starting out. And which is why, like, we want to have something like this. And we are also, it is still in progress, working on our PDF or our
Mm-hmm.
course
Yep.
that
Yeah, we
lays
are.
out what kind of services to focus on. But I got PropStream, which
Yep.
is like
Oh
about
yeah.
$97 a month. And it does have a
Mm-hmm.
7-day free trial. And that PropStream is just a great tool for comps. But you can also get data up to 10,000 records a month,
That's true.
which
Yep.
is really great. So I was able to get free data there. I know of many people who were able to close deals just from PropStream data. Um, I did get call tools as a dialer, even though I didn't know what the hell I was doing or how to set everything up.
Yeah, I
Uh,
didn't either.
right? Like, it's like, oh, luckily I had like headphones from like work and stuff so I could use, but I'm like setting everything up. It was like really overwhelming, and like how to upload the lists and stuff. And then my data and lists I got from, I think, ChargedUp lists or ChargedUp
Mm-hmm.
data. I can't remember one of those, which is through GeoPoint, absentee 60 plus. And I focus
Yeah.
on my somewhat local markets, not necessarily the Bay Area, but the outskirts of the Bay Area. So more like the
Mm-hmm.
secondary markets. And then I skip trace it with REI Skip. It took me forever. I literally had to watch like Chris's videos and then like
Mm-hmm.
videos. I'm like, wait, how do I format it? I was like so confused. I didn't really know like kind of like how to do it. And so once I figured it out, I was able to kind of get the list. And then obviously Google Docs for, your purchase agreement, assignment agreement. But this is one thing I didn't know is, DocuSign, I think, does have a 30-day free trial, but there's other
Mm-hmm.
signature, was it signature tools like a DocuSign that are actually
Mm-hmm.
free, either up to 5 cents or just free, which is like HelloSign and
Mm-hmm.
PandaDoc.
Right.
Those, like, so if you're on a budget and you need a tool to send out agreements or whatever, that's a great way to have it for free.
Mm-hmm.
But I do recommend DocuSign just because of
Yeah.
it's well known and it's very professional as well. But there's so many signature tools that you can use that are affordable as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's if you're looking for free. So that's kind of like what I started with, and then but you don't necessarily have to get a dialer right off the bat because it is
Mm-hmm.
pricey, right? Like, especially
Yeah.
now, I can only imagine you're dealing with the numbers going spam, and you have to check on a regular basis. You need a certain number, a certain group of numbers to
Mm-hmm.
market. Otherwise, you have to like swap them out. It's like really, it's a lot to manage. So if
Right.
you're really balling on a budget, like 100 to 200 bucks a month, get a Google Voice because that's
Mm-hmm.
free. And then I think there's another one, another like phone app. I think I had it down here. It was called Text Now. I think somebody had recommended it, but it's a
I
free
think I
number.
heard of that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So Text Now or Google Voice, great options if you're really balling the budget. Because the main thing is just get on the phones and just start calling sellers and just being really
Mm-hmm.
intentional. As long as you're consistent with it, like whether you have a dialer or a Google Voice, a single line, like just be consistent with that,
Mm-hmm.
and you shouldn't have any issues at all. So all that to say that that's basically what I started off with,
Mm-hmm.
and I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. I think what the other thing people need to understand is the learning curve on some of these things is time consuming, right? So
Yeah,
you have to, especially if you're not tech savvy.
right.
I think a lot of people get stuck up on how to upload the list, or to a dialer, and how to use the dialer properly.
Right.
And so there was a lot of videos that we had to watch, a lot of questions we had to ask in the group. So there is a little bit of a learning curve on that. So don't kind of expect to get it and just start dialing. I mean, you'll have to learn the system, just like
Some people
with
do
any
that though, don't
process.
they?
Yeah, 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 they
But
do.
you're totally right.
So and with even with, I think when we got prop stream, we kind of already knew how to do the comps because we had Chris's class,
Hmm.
and he kind of showed us how he comp, and he used the same program, so I think that
Hmm.
was easy on that.
Right.
But on the list, I think I only pulled one or two lists from prop stream,
Yeah.
and I was just marketing in LA, so LA County, and I felt like it wasn't a good list for me, especially well in my market. So that's why I
Right.
kept with the current like GeoPoint list that I got. Now I do batch list or batch leads and pull lists from there as well.
Right. Yeah, and there's so many tools now, especially, and that's what I loved about Chris's program is like whatever he's using,
Mm-hmm.
he markets that too. So it's like he pushes his students to get these specific tools. I mean, really, if you're even balling on the budget, like you could include REI Reply, which is
Right.
$49 a month, or Marketing Plex. I think that
Mm-hmm.
which is even as low as $25 a month for texting. But that's going to take some time, especially if you're not tech savvy. You bring up such a great point in like the time to actually learn these tools, especially if you're not tech savvy. So that's why having a group like Chris's group, or if you know somebody who's also in the same boat, like picking their brain or seeing, what they're doing and how you can also apply it. That's probably one of the biggest hurdles that I've noticed with new up and coming like wholesalers is they don't
Mm-hmm.
understand like services, or like I'm so overwhelmed with REI Reply, I'm so overwhelmed with call tools or batch dialer. Like, can somebody help me? Like, that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no straightforward process. Nothing is like really straightforward where you can just pick up and go.
Yeah.
And that's something that we don't recommend either, because you do need to learn the business. It's going to be costly. It's going to cost you if you just
Mm-hmm.
rush into something. Like, I know I ran an REI Reply my first campaign, my first text message campaign. I think I ran like over 600 records, and like
Mm-hmm.
I shot myself in the foot doing that because I didn't have my system set up. So people are replying, calling. I don't know what to do. That's where it's like you want to test and then
Yeah.
like proceed, right? So it's a test and trial run. That's beneficial, but people just want to like, all right, I just want to get started. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just have me
Mm-hmm.
get started, and it just doesn't work out that way. You have to like learn. I mean, that's what's part of being a business owner too, is like you need to
Right.
dedicate some time. So really great point there, because I don't think people talk about that really. It's just like you should get this because it's easy. Well, is it really? I don't know. So I think that's definitely something to consider when you guys are
Yeah.
getting started.
Definitely. I think with it being time consuming, and then also your budget, I think trying to be resourceful. The good thing about, we've talked about this in the past and past podcasts, is that having a community helps too, because if you have a budget, you can jump on someone else's dialer if they're doing really well and they
Right.
have space, and they'll allow you to upload their list, your list, and then you call on them, and you have an agreement on how that would work on a JV or whatever the case may be. That way you're not spending that much money on the dialer, but you're getting used to how that works when you do close a deal, so you can get the dialer
Right.
um, when you have excess funds.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And another thing too, along with the community, is that like you said, Jay, being partner up with somebody more experienced. Obviously,
Mhm.
being part of Chris's program, we learn like, hey, let's partner up together. Like, there's a whole group of people who are experienced closing. Like, it's a wide range of people just getting started to maybe closing one deal a month to like over 10 deals a month. So it's
Mhm.
like you have a pool of people that have been through it, and that you can like pick their brain too, or see how you can help out as
Mm-hmm.
well, where it's like, hey, I'm just getting started, we have our regions. You can kind of, because you've done it before, right? Where you've worked with somebody who maybe was possibly like just having a hard time, or just
Mm-hmm.
working on their budget, right? And me as well, where it was like, hey, I don't have the time to sit on a dialer and like for 3-4 hours to call, and
Right.
somebody here is starting out and does have that time. So it's like, hey, let's split this, or hey, you do this, and then you maybe cover something else. So it is kind of a handshake deal in a way, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
we're adding value to each other. So that's also something really great. Somebody that you do kind of trust, or at least kind of vibe, and kind of have the same goals. That's also another great way where you can make it affordable. And until you guys close your first deal, you guys JV together, then you can kind of break off and focus on
Mm-hmm.
your business and building that out. But that's an underrated way, I think, also people
Mm-hmm.
underestimate.
Yeah, because excuse me, I think they just kind of wait until they have that the funds to do it with, instead of thinking of other ways to how they can kind of jump in and get started.
Right.
I think, sometimes you have to think outside the box, or, just tap in and network with the community that you're in, and take advantage of opportunities to at least get you started, and,
Mhm.
we didn't have much to start. We just kind of had the basics, really. And I
Right.
know we know people that didn't even have that. Like, they were just dialing
Yeah.
on a phone, and
On their
they
own phone.
yeah, own phone, and they were able to get a deal from that, and
Yeah.
kind of grow. So,
Yeah, but do be careful with that, calling from your own phone, because
mhm,
last thing you want to do is get a hold of a
yeah,
litigator that has your phone number, and then you're dealing with some messy
yeah,
stuff. So Google Voice is such a great way. I think I said text now is also again,
hmm,
it's a single dialer, but again, like, you don't have to worry about the fancy tools. Like we talk about not getting a fancy CRM. Like,
hmm,
the main focus should be just calling to people, and just connecting, and trying to get a deal. It's just crazy how, like, I do feel like when you do have your back against the wall, and it's like, I only have this number of services, like, there's that a dog in you, I like to say,
hmm,
where it's like, hey, I'm gonna do whatever it takes.
right, right,
And there's just something special about that, compared to maybe somebody who has a little bit more budget. But it's like, well, I'm gonna ease my way in, and it's kind of, it's a little different. Different kind of pressure that you
hmm,
put on yourself, and that's what makes it tough too. And that was kind of my challenge starting out too, is like, well, I have a comfortable job, I can afford this much for my business. I'm gonna just ease my way in, and like,
hmm,
there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, but I think sometimes just having those limited resources, you can do so much with it. So don't think like, oh,
yeah,
I can only get this, and but this person has that, like, their comparison is a thief of joy. Just focus on you, and what you can do.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, One question is that, like, how did you start to increase your tools and like services that you use as you started to kind of get more deals in and grow?
Yeah, for me, it was just talking to people,
Hmm.
in the same in our same group, or just like doing some research around Facebook. I joined a ton of Facebook like real estate or wholesaling groups, and people were just like, "Hey, like, check this out or check this out." But that is also dangerous, because
Hmm.
you can get really distracted, and like, just which tool should I go with, or it's
Hmm.
like, I think building the foundation of your business is super key. So identifying, once you've closed a deal, identifying, okay, what helped get me there? Okay,
Hmm.
for sure, prop stream, for sure, this and that. Okay, what can take me to the next level? Okay, if I was using Google Voice, maybe I want a dialer so I can, like, hop on the phones a little bit longer. But you want to envision, okay, if I were to close more deals, like, can I have somebody take my spot? like what services
Mhm.
I need. And one tip that I think we heard is after every deal, you should find a way to automate your business. So,
Mhm.
because that's the business owner thinking, not the hustle,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
hey, like what's the next deal? Really treating it like a business. So it's like if you've been doing manual stuff in the beginning before you got your deal, once you get your deal, what are ways like you have to find creative ways to get yourself out of that working in the business. So
Mhm.
whether it's like, hey, I was only doing single line calling. All right,
Mhm.
I'm gonna focus on bulk dialing, or I want to get into SMS because that's the next cheapest thing. I mean, the way I weigh
Mhm.
it, like the cheapest is probably cold calling and then SMS, and then there's other tools. But I think finding ways to really build out your business and then like add on to that. There's going to be tools that maybe helped you get your first deal that maybe isn't going to help you, in the long run. So really identify
Mhm.
what your key services are. Obviously, you want to like speak to other people. Like for me, I did use Podio like after my first deal.
Oh yeah.
It
Mhm.
was free, but I started kind of learning about REI Sift, which
Mhm.
is like a CRM, or it's a data management tool, task management, where I'm able to pull up a record of the address that I have, right? And I can see, okay, how many times did I call this person? How many wrong numbers do I have? It's a full on profile of this seller. So
Mhm.
I was able to learn about stacking lists and what does that mean, and like really focusing on. They have this really great challenge. It used to be called Auto Lead Gen Challenge, and now it's called, I think, Data to Dollars.
Mhm.
And what that does is it's a 1 month challenge where for 4 weeks you just break down every part of the business. And one key thing that you go over is your budget, and you go over, okay, these are all the services I have. And then
Mhm.
you also have a VA, or you also like purchase lists and stuff like that. You break
Mhm.
down, you be like, wow, I'm spending $1,000 when really I only use, $500 worth of the list. So, because
Wow.
sometimes as you add, close more deals, you add on like unnecessary stuff just because something.
Yeah.
So being really intentional, and identifying like, all right, where can I really stretch my money, especially when you're starting out, I think is really key, and something you should do on a regular basis, whether it's quarterly,
Mhm.
to see like, okay, well, how much money did I spend on my business this quarter? Okay, I never even used this tool. Why am I even like, let me cancel it? So it's just stuff like
Mhm.
that, I think is really great to audit, and really, as part of like being a business owner. So I kind of ran around
Yeah.
your question, but probably
Yeah.
the next kind of tool I got was like REI Sift after I
Okay.
closed my first deal.
Yeah, and no, I think you make a good point too because I know like I use Podio too, and I still use Podio. So different programs or different tools will kind of fit your business or what you kind of do and what you feel comfortable with. So
Right.
I did get batch leads, which is similar to REI Sift in how they it doesn't go too in depth like REI
Right.
Sift, but you're able to separate your leads, and then as you get leads in, or you upload leads, or you purchase leads, then you can, it won't duplicate any kind of leads that you have currently in there.
Mhm.
So it would separate that. So you're saving on the skip tracing cost. So you're
Yeah.
not duplicating, the same name, and they're skip tracing all of those names. So it would actually separate those, so you save money on the skip tracing parts, which I like because
Mhm.
you don't want to spend extra money and where
Right.
you don't have to. And you kind of covered that as well too, because you as you grow, you start eliminating things from your services that are not productive or you don't need in your business. So I
Right.
think being conscious about that is very important, like you kind of said too. So and there's some things that I don't use REI. What is it?
REI Reply.
Yeah, reply. And so and I partner up with someone that does REI reply. So,
Right.
because I honestly don't have time to get it all set up, or even when I get it set up, replying all to the texts and stuff like that. So, eventually that system will come into my business, but right now, what I have works for what I'm doing currently.
Well, you're mostly relationships, right?
Yep.
Like that's
Yep.
kind of your marketing in a way, is like
It
you
is 100%.
leverage the relationships with brokers or investors,
Mm-hmm.
and then they either bring your deals, or you also leverage relationships with other wholesalers, right? Like either
Mm-hmm.
within the group, they'll bring you deals, and then you've already created relationships with buyers, so it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like put two and two together. You kind of, and that's what's like so beautiful about you know me and Tim don't have the same market, like our same process or the same systems, but it, like, what we have works for us, and so
Mm-hmm.
that's the key thing. Yes, you want a foundation, and we were able to gather that through Chris, but as you kind of, because everyone's different, everyone wants to focus on different things, you then learn like, okay, well, that's cool now, I understand now, but it's like, but this is kind of what I really want to focus on. And the biggest key thing I think that you'll learn is like profit margins are huge. That's what's going to really make you money. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
spending like crazy amounts of money on unnecessary tools or services, your profit margins just start shrinking and shrinking. And what I learned when I got RAI Sift is like, people typically just buy a list and just skip
Mm-hmm.
trace the full list and start cold calling. And there's nothing wrong with that when you're getting started. But when you start, once you close deals and stuff, the profit margins is really important. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
spend $1,000 on a date, on a big set of data. Let me focus on who I should target first. I want to target
Mm-hmm.
vacants first, and that's kind of a thing that REI Sift automatically does, so I don't have to buy a vacant list, because they have a API or a connection with USPS, with the postal service, that shows like, okay, which ones are vacant. So if I want to target vacants first, or I want to target vacants with code violations, for example, that's a more motivated seller, possibly that. And so I'm going to target those. And so instead of 1,000 records, maybe I dwindle it down to 500. So that makes it a lot
Mm-hmm.
more manageable to, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a big team, like, that's another thing. You have to like keep getting data. But
Mm-hmm.
it's important to focus on your process. And so that's what I like about REI Sift, is like, you're forced to build your systems, and it can be like difficult up front, so it's really important for you to take that time,
Mm-hmm.
like we talked about earlier, because that's the only way you're going to grow. You have to understand your systems, because otherwise, when you bring someone on, how are you won't know what to teach them, because you don't even know this your system. So
Right. Right.
I think we're hoping, like, you at least kind of see that there's no one way to
Mm-hmm.
kind of run a wholesaling business. But we'll at least kind of give you some basics to start off with. And another one I don't think we've talked about either is county data too, which is
Mm-hmm.
typically free or a lot
Yep.
more affordable. Have you
Mm-hmm.
purchased county data before,
I
or
I
have you
actually
gotten it for?
haven't purchased it. I think I've got it for free. So there's some websites that you can go to the county, and then on their website to actually get it, download a list, and then you can skip trace it from there, or you can go to the courthouse and they have a list there. You'll
Yep.
have to go to the right department and get find out what that is, and then kind of play nice to the clerk or the person
Yeah.
responsible with that, and just kind of tell them what you're doing, and if you know just you network really with them, and just kind of play nice, this is what you're doing, and kind of get that list, and if they're nice enough, they'll show you actually how to do it, and they might have computers there too, depending
Right.
on what market you're in as well. Or if you're virtual, you can have someone go to the courthouse for you, right, and
Right.
pull that list, like so and then compensate them for doing that if you close the deal.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because that's it varies, like you said, by market. So I've tried in my market, it's so difficult to find it. Um, even through online where it's like you
Mm-hmm.
do have to go in and like, I don't have time, but sometimes I leverage like the relationships I've learned with
Mm-hmm.
either the buyers, and they'll either tell me where to get it or
Mm-hmm.
who to call and stuff like that. A lot of times you just have to call, like just
Yeah,
call the county clerk or whatever and
absolutely.
just be like, hey, I think it's what the Freedoms of Information Act, like you kind of have
Mm-hmm.
to like
Yep.
say that because we do have a right as citizens to get data, public data. Um, so just call around and just see what happens. But this is what's great too about having a group like Chris's group, is I can call, say you're working KC and I want to get into KC. I'll be like, hey Tim, like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you recommend? This is a market I really want to focus on, and that's a way to like you just saved yourself maybe a couple hours by reaching out to somebody. So the power of
Absolutely.
networking, the power of social media, whatever it is, can really help you in like gathering that information that you need.
No, I think that you're 100% correct on that, because you want to save as much time as you can, because dealing with sellers and buyers and stuff like that on a deal is time consuming in itself.
Yeah.
And then also making the calls. But when you're starting to market in different ways to get more leads, then I think time is of the essence, really, because the faster you can get the leads, the faster you can get it locked up or make the phone calls to get them locked up for that.
Yeah.
So anywhere to save you time is going to be crucial for your business.
Yeah, that's a good key point in time. Time is key in everything, right? Like time is what you make it. Is what I've learned is like if I've avoided something and I complain saying I never had enough time, I've realized like I just didn't want to do it, or I just didn't
Mm,
have that motivation to do it. So um time is what you make it. So whatever it is that you can do to avoid like spending so much time, definitely take advantage of that. One thing I've learned with like code violation data, is that time is very key on that point, because you want to get them as fresh as possible, because if you wait 3 months, they like maybe the seller already cleared up the property,
mm-hmm.
or they
Mm-hmm.
renovated it, and so by the time they call, it's like, oh no, everything's brand new. I'm not going to sell, or I just rented out, or I just fixed it up and sold it. And so I've learned like, okay, I need to get as fresh data if I want to focus on code violations, because you want to get as soon as they get the notice, and
Right.
then you want to
Right.
call and like
Absolutely.
get their information. So even like probates as well, or auction,
Mm-hmm.
foreclosure, it's all about time. Like you don't want to call them and then the auction ends and like somebody else
Yeah.
purchased it. So it's being really intentional. And I think we've talked about this too, is like there's so many things when you get started, so many services, like so much data,
Mm-hmm.
like I focus on probates first or whatever. Just pick a lane and focus on it, whatever you gravitate towards. So for me it was like code violations or like
Mm-hmm.
lot. And so just stick to that, become an expert in that. And that's one thing I've also learned through RAI Sift is like, if you want to focus on probates, be the damn best at probates. Like know the ins and outs of the process. And
Right.
then once you feel good, like maybe you can move into multifamily or whatever it is that you want to
Mm-hmm.
move into. But people, I think right now, because it's so easy to like want to like, put their hands in the jar of like everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes that like, it causes distractions and yeah, you feel like you're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a huge thing I've learned, or lesson I've learned even in the last year.
Yeah. I think it's funny because, as we're in the group and as you see people get, deals and they're successful, and then people reach out to you and, they start saying, what list did you pull? Or,
Have your time.
yeah,
What
like,
market are you in? All right, I'm gonna
what
go in
market are you in?
that.
Right. So they kind of jump on the bandwagon a little bit of, you are successful at that, then I'll be successful at that. I
Right.
guess maybe that's not the right mentality, is that maybe you just, go after a market that you kind of choose or and then pull a list that you feel that you can master, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
from that, then just keep on, doing the process from there. And then, network with other people that are maybe in that market, or, if you're in the probates, maybe connecting with probate
Somebody who's a
attorneys.
probate.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So there, just kind of be 100% into that type of market that you're trying to, um, you know, get deals in, right? So,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then, so I think that's the best way, because a lot of people, like you said, kind of jump around, and
Because
and that's when.
it's easy to follow, right? Like what other
Mm-hmm.
people are doing. Like, I mean, you're working on some commercial deals. Who's to say you post it and people aren't like, all right, well, how did you get that? What list did you know, they may
Yeah,
ask the same
exactly.
thing.
Right, right.
Um, and one key point that you brought up is also the process. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't ask what list they got. Like, ask how they did it. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
process did you use? How many times did you follow up? Like, those are the things that you want to do. But of course, people want to hop on the bandwagon anytime like they see people closing deals. Like, when I think Chris was opening up at his JV program,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "Yo, like hop off." Was it Mobile or I can't remember somewhere like
Somewhere in Alabama, I think,
yeah,
was it?
somewhere Alabama. He was like,
Yeah.
"Yo, y'all need to like." Somebody had said like, I think people take people's words seriously, especially somebody like Chris, who's like,
Mm-hmm.
he's so established, he's done his thing, and he's still doing his thing, but if he says one thing like, "Oh, I think it was Birmingham. I think
Birmingham,
Birmingham is going to
that
be
was it.
a
Yeah.
good up and coming market." People are going to like, everybody
They
jump
jumped
to
on
it.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
do at least do some research on it, on like if it's infiltrated, like maybe you don't want to do it. And that's going to, that's where it's like that's going to eat at your profit margins. Like you just wasted hella money in data when you had no idea like about the market. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really important as you become more experienced in becoming a business owner, is like being really strategic in the markets and the decisions that you make, because it could be costly and you'd be
Mm-hmm.
like, damn, I just spent $1,000 for no damn reason.
I know. I know. I mean, like, and that's good that, I know a lot of people too jump from market to market as well, because they're not having success there. And if you stay in the market that you're in, you're going to learn a lot about that market, and
Right.
you'll know things before, I say, the media rollout, right? Because
Right.
by the time the media rollout is too late, so if you kind of stick with it, kind of talk with buyers, talk with sellers, and you can see where prices are going up or prices are going down, or if buyers are backing away, or you can just learn a lot just being in the day to day of your current market too. So we would suggest that continue their process, but also stick with it, and then continue to learn. Even if you jump to another market, continue to work that market that you left. I mean, that's my suggestion.
That's a great suggestion. Um, I mean, I did that in the beginning. I think I
Hmm.
was like in Florida, Atlanta, because again, people were
Hmm.
like, "Oh yeah, Atlanta's hot," and then it just became too busy. Like I think we've talked about this before. If you're calling sellers and they're like, "You're the 12th person," I think I did Columbus, Ohio too when I got started. I did Cincinnati. Like I did like over 10 markets probably when my
Yeah.
first year that I got started, because I just had no idea. I didn't have a process down. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Focus on your process first, right? Don't focus on what everyone else is doing. Just gravitate towards a market, do a little bit of research. Are there cash buyers? And this does vary, right? Like if you want to focus on just lots alone,
Hmm.
you don't want to focus on lots and then pull a list from a market that's not doing any new builds, or you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, so like that's what I mean by being strategic. Like if I'm going to focus on lots, I want to go where the builders are buying or developers are buying.
Hmm.
So that was a mistake I learned, and I probably spent so much money to be quite honest on like
Right.
lists here and
Right.
there, numbers. Like it's just but it's just part of the process, of course.
Hmm.
That's why
Yeah.
we're talking about it now. But my question to you, because I know right now you're leveraging on relationships,
Hmm.
what are some goals for you in terms of services, or like what's kind of your vision? Because I know you're doing like commercial side, but you also want to like continue the wholesaling side. Like what sort of services are you kind of considering once you kind of get things settled in?
Well, I think a lot of the services that I currently have, I'll continue to use, and in place. But also, I think going forward, it will be a lot of, maybe paid advertising as well too, as my budget goes up, and then
Right.
having more inbound leads instead of outbound leads. And I
Right.
think that's been a lot of my transition on the residential side for sure, is that getting, how can I get more inbound leads? And most of my inbound leads are leveraging relationships on that end.
Right.
And then as the budget gets bigger, and more revenue comes in, then I'll kind of leverage, um, you know, uh, like social media advertising or Google advertising, because I have a background in that. But
Right.
it does take a lot of funding just to get started in that and to see results from that. It's not
Yeah.
something that you can, start in this
It's something to
business.
learn too, but you can
Yeah,
hire out an agency. I know many people who do that.
100%. Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
which if I'm like closing big deals and have like a good pool of a budget to purchase I would probably go the agency route because I don't want to spend time like and this is where you learn about time too.
Mhm.
Unless like you know how to do it, like that's one thing, but I'm not gonna spend 3 hours looking at YouTube videos or asking around, like, just
Yeah.
give me this just do it for me, and if it's worth 500 bucks a month and I
Mhm.
get, like, 2 deals out of that, that's over 100K,
Yeah.
like, that's
That
a
yeah.
no-brainer, you know what I
Right,
mean? Or
right.
even more if it's 1,000 bucks a month, so, that's where, there's all these new services coming out too, so it's also understanding, like, your needs in the business, so, but you don't have to do the Facebook ads or Google
Mhm.
ads or whatever, although, I am seeing there's big success in that, but, like, just do what, like, works for you, whether it's
Mhm.
continuing cold calling. I know people that, um I know somebody who made, I think his name is Felipe, shout out Felipe, I think, he's out in Tennessee. He made 60K wholesaling last year, and
Mm.
this year, he's on pace to make 1,000,000, like,
Oh, that's awesome.
so, that tells you a lot. That's because he invested in his systems in cold
Mhm.
calling only. That's all he does is cold calling. I
Yeah.
don't even think he texts. He has, like, he uses a service that, has a, team of VAs that cold call, and then they give him the log and everything. So
Mhm.
that's where it's like you leverage time. You don't have to manage
Mhm.
the VAs. You may have to keep in touch on, like, stuff like that, but, um, that's probably something I would do
Mhm.
as well. But Facebook ads, that's also a great way. Inbound leads usually are more motivated.
Mhm.
Google ads, but it's also understanding like you have to work on your reputation of your website too. So that's why like I think hiring an agency works because they know all that. They're experts in that.
Mhm.
And as you become a
Mhm.
business owner, you're like, you have to learn your strengths, right? Okay, I'm good at this, but I'm not at that. Like
Right.
marketing or, specifically like, Google ads and stuff like, I don't know. Let me hire somebody to do it who's better at it than I am.
Mhm.
So, I think that's probably the route I would go if I
Yeah.
were to focus on that.
And I think Chris even mentioned that he's spending, investing some money in learning how to,
Right.
do the digital advertising and that aspect of the business too, so he can be more educated on how to you know send out it, even for his course or even for wholesaling. So I think
Yeah,
this is just an
absolutely.
important aspect, and it just goes back to budget. What budget is going to be so sufficient for you and your business.
Yeah. For me specifically, even if like I'm closing 6 figures a month or whatever, I want to keep again profit margins. I'm gonna keep saying that. I don't want a big team. I want maybe a
Hmm.
team of 3 or 5 people like
Yeah,
running and
keep it lean.
without me in it. I mean, I'm in a product for my 9 to 5 and we're very, very lean. And so when you're lean, you have to focus on your systems and your process and
Hmm.
whatever you use And sometimes some of it is automation, which would be great, but sometimes too much automation isn't the best either. You want to be really intentional about your automations, and if you do, you want to have a system behind that. So that's where I kind of want to cap it at like 1,000 a month or 1,500 a month tops.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if I'm, in a six-figure wholesaling business, that's kind of my goals. And the way you look at it is like the tier of like marketing. You have your cold calling. That's like probably the cheapest, right? Next
Mm-hmm.
up is probably SMS. And then after that, I mean, you can even talk about direct mail. That's a very successful marketing, but it's slow and it's really expensive because you're
Yeah.
having to send stuff out. And then you have like your digital marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other forms of marketing too, which we don't have to necessarily get into, where it's more niche.
Mm-hmm.
And that maybe takes more time, but just kind of figure out what works best for you. Some people want a big team of 16, 20 people. And I mean, we talked to Austin the other day, and he
Yeah.
has an internal team, but he has a team of 16 VAs that are
Yep.
managed by somebody else. Uh,
Right.
so, it's just kind of setting up the system that works best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tim, you'll still be doing commercial deals. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
plan on doing commercial deals as well. But that's kind of a separate part of the wholesaling.
Yeah. Totally
Aspect.
different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And and those have their own like resources and tools and stuff like that,
Right.
that you'll utilize, and different websites that you can use, to get a feel of what the market's doing, and what kind of deals are out there.
Right.
And that's just it's a smaller tool set, but you really have to rely on the numbers and what is provided for you on financially on these deals. So but I think on just researching and understanding the market and those type of things, those are some tools that you'll need to do, but it's totally different from what you're doing in wholesaling, and the tools that
Right.
you'll need there too. But I know that when we're getting into multifamily, we understood that a lot of the old resources that people were using, like direct mail and stuff like that, they're
Yeah.
trying to get into more, direct to seller, and that's
Right.
and
Not through the broker.
exactly, and that's when we feel we had an advantage because we've done that wholesaling a lot, right? So,
Yeah, and
um,
we've talked about the once you've established the foundation for your wholesaling business, you can take that process anywhere, right? So,
mhm,
whether it's multifamily, and yeah, even listening to podcasts, like people are like, wait, I want to get into this, or because all they do is direct mail. But I mean, if you think about it, if it works for them, like, why would they want to change? I think now
mhm,
they're like, okay, well, maybe direct mail is starting to slow down, or I want to be able to push more deals. So that, what's another marketing channel besides, working with brokers or direct mail. So
mhm,
that's where wholesalers have an advantage, because we're we have the entire system built out, from marketing, acquisitions, dispositions, transaction coordinator, you name it. Like, we have
mhm,
the entire assembly line of a deal that goes through. So if you understand that, you can take that into commercial. I'm sure maybe your
yeah,
wholesaling experience has helped you. How
yeah,
would you say, like,
100%.
your systems maybe has helped in the commercial deals you've worked with?
Yeah, 100%. Just, kind of understanding just the process, and talking to sellers or talking to, investors. And
Mhm.
a lot of it is just learning the terminology as well, and being on the same page, and,
Yeah.
knowing how to analyze a deal and understand where they're coming from. You have to really, when you're talking to investors, you have to think like an investor, and, how
Mhm.
you can how would you approach this deal type of thing, and what's the protections that I'm looking for as an investor going into this deal.
Right.
So I think that's a lot of it, as well, but just negotiation part as well,
Mm.
because you're not just negotiating with the seller, you're negotiating with brokers, and you're making sure you got it on the same page. uh, you know
Yeah, it's a good point.
you're talking like splitting their commission, and so it's just you got to just make sure that you have your system, right, which has helped me understand how I'm going to approach certain commercial deals as well too. So
Right. Yeah, I mean that's huge, guys. So I mean, for the you guys watching, like don't focus on like the super deep, like the ins and outs, the details of it. Just focus, especially if you're starting out. Figure
hmm
out your budget, and okay, what am I going to need to talk to sellers? You're going to need a phone. You're going to need
hmm
data. So it's like it's very elementary in a way, and that's
yeah
why we say wholesaling is simple but not easy. Because what the hard part is being consistent with it, is like taking these tools and actually utilizing them, and helping them help you in a
hmm
sense, right?
yeah
So there's no point. I mean, I know plenty of people who bought the whole thing, like maybe spent over $1,000, and they never use it because they're
yeah
like, they just come up with an excuse, or just, whatever it is. So it doesn't matter. Like, going back to like, hey, you can have, Google Voice
hmm
and a list on a spreadsheet and call, and people will close deals compared
yeah
to somebody that has all the ins and outs and never
hmm
touched it.
yeah
So, don't compare yourself to those. Just focus on what works best for you, what your budget is, and you'll learn. You'll learn. Like, obviously, we got to a point where, like, okay, we understand what's
hmm
happening. It does take time. Obviously, it's a little bit quicker if you hire a mentor, who
hmm
can kind of like hold your hand.
save you money too. It would save you money
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Yes, that is actually my goal, this upcoming quarter, is to hire a mentor to just kind of like straighten me out, because I feel like I've done a pretty good job on my own, but it's
Yeah.
just kind of taking myself to the next level.
hmm
I think is some money that I'm investing in myself. So just, just understanding that, obviously, if you do have some money laying
hmm
around, like, just get started on the basics.
Yeah. I think that is the most important tool that you can spend
Is
is
you?
on yourself. Yep. That is the most important thing. So if you are looking to, you're already kind of established and got, all these processes down. It's just, you know, um, betting on yourself and spending money on, learning other things to grow your business. I think that's very important. I think that's you bring up a great point on that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's you're the biggest asset, right?
hmm
Like, it all starts with you, and that's why I said time starts with you. If
hmm
you're not, and that's something I found myself telling myself, like, oh, I don't have time for this because of this, or, I don't have time because, or, oh, I'm out of time. Like, I kept bringing that up, and I read this book called The Big Leap. I think it's called The
mm
Big Leap. Kind of going from like certain way of thinking to like thinking bigger. Um, and one thing was saying is like, when you complain about time like that, it's because you didn't want to do it, or you found a block in your mind telling you not to do it, or use especially starting out, when it's something that's new and uncomfortable. Like, how many times were we like try to distract ourselves intentionally, like, oh, wait, I think I have to do this today. You just move
hmm
away from doing what you're supposed
hmm
to do. So, time, you are time. So,
hmm
whatever it is, like, just work on, making time for yourself. Because if you find yourself complaining about something, then, like, do what are you going to do about it? If
Yeah.
you're at 9 to 5, you want to get into wholesaling, you're like, I just don't have the time to do it. No, you do. You definitely do.
hmm
Like,
hmm
so if you just dedicate 1 hour a week, even,
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I think people would be more happy, probably, doing
No,
it.
yeah. Yeah, I think if you really want to do it, you'll make the time to do it, right? Or
Right.
you'll make the time to learn how to do it, or the case that's the case. Um y- and we kind of made a choice that we wanted to get into it, and we kind of went head first and kind of never looked back type of thing. So,
Yeah, and we're still
um
learning too. Like,
yeah,
there's so
absolutely.
many mistakes I've made, I'm gonna keep making. And there's times where it's like, I want to improve on whatever it is, and I could be better in at X and Y, but it's not the point. It's like you're being persistent. You're not giving up, and you're just being consistent. You find your own consistency, which is something
Mm-hmm.
I remember you told me, that stuck with me, is like, everybody's consistency is different. So just
Mm-hmm.
kind of, find something that suits you, that is consistent, that maybe, okay, spending an hour making calls or follow-up calls is enough for me, instead of wasting four, not, I don't want to say wasting, but spending 4 hours on a
Mm-hmm.
call.
Right.
But another thing actually I just thought of, for people that maybe, are still balling the budget, is like driving for dollars too.
Mm-hmm.
Deal machine,
Mm-hmm.
or if you work DoorDash or Uber, Lyft, whatever, that's a great opportunity for you to look for houses. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another way to get data too, or get records. You still have to skip trace it, but I think Deal Machine is like 40 to $60 a month. And it has an app that
Yep.
tracks, if you are driving. You can able like tap, and save properties. And so you try to find like the ugliest house, or the house that looks like it needs some work. Um, but these are just like ways that you can do it with no money. So there's really like no excuse. Like,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
what I've learned, just being in, the ChargedUp U group, like people have made nothing out, like something out of nothing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always amazed, and that's motivation for me. And it's like, oh, like who am I, that, like this person may close a deal like doing just
Mm-hmm.
this and that, or,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. It's such a, that's also another way to like motivate me to get my shit together sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think uh, driving for dollars is very, um, I think, underestimated, right? And I think
Yeah.
people don't think of it, and I still do that. I mean, I always look. I'm when I'm driving, I'm always looking at
Oh,
properties,
yeah.
or
Don't
I'm
we see
taking
things differently
pictures.
now?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
when we were,
totally.
when I came down, and, yeah, we were just driving around like, "Oh, like, what's that
Mm-hmm.
property? What's that multifamily?" Like, it's just, you just never look at real estate the same.
No, not at all. Because
Yeah.
we feel like every, busted up house is an opportunity,
Right.
for us to, try to make a deal or solve a problem for that seller, right? So,
Exactly.
I think, I think that that's the mindset you have. Is not It's not always about the dollar. It's always about, what's the problem that you can solve for that seller. And I think
Exactly. Where can I add
that's really important.
value?
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's hard, especially if like, you're kind of low on money, and like you're struggling. It's
Yeah,
hard not to think
definitely.
about the money, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately, like in the long run, it like you're not going to get anywhere. You got to come in with the attitude, like, like who am I helping today? And that's something I now will, like when I do my follow-ups or whatever, I'm like, all right, what problems am I solving today?
Mm-hmm. That's
And
good.
coming in with that mentality. And it's like, again, going back to like, I am time. So it's like, I want to dedicate this time to help solve problems, or just help somebody. And it just made it so much easier too.
Mm-hmm.
Especially before, when people have that nerve wracking experience of like cold calling. So like, just step in there, just do it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But there are other ways, if you absolutely cannot do it. So many ways you can do it, but you still have to close it. So,
Mm-hmm.
whether you partner up with somebody, um, that's all it is. But,
Yeah.
yeah, we dropped some good fire today, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think what you kind of put together on budgets, I think maybe we should just post that on the comments maybe, and then they
Yeah.
can get an idea of what like that budget looks like on different tiers, and kind of decide on what they can afford or what they can't afford, and how to kind of get started. And then I think the very basics, of course, is you have to have a phone and a computer for sure, and
Oh, yeah.
whether it's a laptop
Some
or
internet probably.
yeah, internet. So those are the basics things, and then you need something to look at the property, so like prop stream, and then either if you're gonna call from your your phone, or your Google Voice, or whatever the case may be, or a dialer. So,
Mhm.
and then the resources to actually pull lists and stuff like that. So those are just really kind of the basic stuff that you need to get started. It's not much, but I know people that have definitely done deals with just the basics.
I mean, I'm looking at that list, which I'll definitely post like within the $100 and $500 range. I mean, if you're just starting out, and this is for the people just starting out, PropStream, $97 a month. I do recommend REI Sift to build your foundation, and that's
Mm-hmm.
$50 a month, but that is optional. Google Voice or Text Now is free. So you're already in like almost 150. Data County, free typically. I mean, maybe the most I've seen people pay is $50. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
$200. Deal Machine, 40 to 60. We'll just say 240. Skip Trace, anywhere between 50 and 100. What am I at now? Like maybe 300.
Mm-hmm. 300. Yeah.
Google Docs is free. HelloSign or PandaDoc are free. That's
Yep.
$300, guys. People spend money on, how much money have you spent $300 on? Like,
Shoot, I mean, like if you're that's a monthly thing. That's some people spend that like on a weekly basis sometimes, right?
I'm on
So
some J's, maybe. I
yeah,
don't know.
exactly. Like
That's $300,
yeah,
guys. Like that alone.
clothes.
Like if you just in that, even then, like the RA Sift option is optional.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I think
Shoot,
that's.
that's the phone bill and gas, right?
I mean, I'm just
For
saying.
the month.
Like, imagine spending $300 and getting a deal, getting a $10,000 deal. Then you can focus on adding more stuff, automating. Maybe you want to
Yeah,
add in some SMS, but guys, like if you
perspective,
start with those tools, you're set. So don't overthink
100%.
it, because I think that's what maybe one thing we could have mentioned too is like people overthink it. Like I think I need to get this and that because this person is getting this and that, or like this guru said this and that. Guys, just focus on what you can afford. You can honestly close deals, pay 100 to $300 a month easily. Just gotta be consistent with it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I'm dropping the mic. What
There you
was it,
go.
Steph? Night night
I know.
doing that.
Night
Steph
night.
Curry's night night. But appreciate you guys hopping on. Tim, did you want to leave the people with anything before we hop off?
No, I mean, I think the important thing is just to kind of get started, and I think this was a good episode to learn how to get started with different tools and services that you can use to make your business successful. So just
Okay.
go out and just do it, and if you have any questions, hit us up. We're always available for to answer any questions or help you out as well. So
Bam. He's so funny. But you're ashamed of. Okay, I see you. I'll take the hit, Bam. I got you. I got you. Wink, wink.
that's funny.
But
That's funny.
but I'll definitely post this over. Actually, I do have some links in my. If you click the link in the description, I think me and Tim both have a link where you can get a hold of us. But I think I have
Hmm.
links to well, the girlfriend you should be ashamed of.
Right.
I have the to the dialer I think that we use, skip trace, all that stuff. But we will be coming out with a course, a very simple course that you can purchase. I think that's something we're finalizing right now. But really appreciate you guys hopping on. Anything that we can do to help, feel free to reach out to us on IG at Real Estate Gladia, at Mr. Tim REI, or hit us up on our Get the Bag podcast IG, get_the bag podcast. Appreciate you guys. Tim, looking forward to
Yeah.
connecting hopefully
Yeah.
this
Can't wait.
week.
Yeah, that'd
I
be
can't wait
awesome.
to move down there too.
I
It's gonna
know.
be bringing
It's exciting.
the swag down to Hollywood. So it'll be really, really fun. But you guys take care. Have an amazing rest of your week. Catch you guys next week.
See you guys.
Later.